Hello, everybody. Welcome out to the Dice Tower. I'm Chris Yee.
And I'm Joy Evans.
Today we're taking a look at the second edition of a game that I adore. It has been on my top 100 games for a long time.
Me too.
It's a game that you enjoy as well, right?
Love it.
Ethnos, second edition.
Yes.
The first edition came out from CMON. A year or so-ish ago, there was a reworking of it called Archaeos Society, which came out. And now this came out. It's a little bit of a confusing publication history, but
It is.
But I was excited that this one is it brings back the area majority, the area control kind of aspect of the scoring. Archaeos Society was move up on tracks and you score per each step.
Right.
So,
Right.
So this is from the original publisher again. I did a companion video that should be released if you're watching this, where I'm going to go into the nitty-gritty details, show you the components and the cards and everything side by side, if you want to see a direct comparison of everything. But this here is going to be the review. So I'm going to show you how this game plays, and then we'll give you our thoughts. Here's Ethnos set up on the table. This is the central board where players are putting out their pagodas, trying to have the tallest in each of the areas. Whoever has the tallest in the white area will score the most points, second place and third place, and so on. Players are also playing out groups of cards in front of themselves, and the larger the group of cards they play, the more points that they will earn from those groups as well. There's a central draw area, a deck of cards, and several face-up cards. Over the course of the game, players will be adding cards to their hand. They have a hard limit of 10 cards. They can draw a card face up from the table and put it in hand, but they do not replace it. Or players can choose to draw the top card instead and not reveal it to anybody. Every player will go, and turns are very quick in this game, and when it comes back to you, you now have the choice of either drawing another card or playing out a group of cards. If you play a group of cards, you can either play them all of the same faction, and you choose which color you want to be on top, or you choose them all to be the same color, and you choose which one you want to be on top. Now, the two things will matter here. If you play a group, say these three blue cards together, you'll choose which faction you want to be the leader, because this one will count for extra scoring. At the end of the round, instead of being a set of 3 cards for 3 points, with this leader on top, it'll count as a group of 4 cards for 6 points. Or you could choose to put this special ability on the top, meaning that players can place their disc or place their pagoda into any colored region. Normally, when you play a group like this, you will then have to take one of your pagodas and place it into that color region so long as the size of the band of cards that you're playing is larger than the number of pagoda pieces you currently have there. So with these 3, I could, in fact, place it right up there. Now, all the leftover cards that I had in hand, I don't get to hold on to. They must get returned to the central area face up, and now other players can take from those piles. When you reveal a dragon card, that is 1/3 of a trigger for the end of an era. As players continue to take cards on their turn, they will eventually reveal another dragon card, and when 3 of them have been revealed this way, that will mark the end of the round. At the end of round scoring, players will always score against this chart here for the size of the groups of cards they played out, but the majority scoring will be a little different. At the end of the first era, whoever has the most pagoda pieces in that region will score this many points. At the end of the second era, whoever has the most will earn the larger number, and second place will score the next one down. And at the end of the third era, this will be first, second, and third place points, which you notice, depending on how they are randomized and set up at the start of the game, could be violently different scores, including this blue region here, which is worth 4 the first round, 4 the second, and then 12 at the end of the third era. First place, second place, third place points. So as players sum up their score, whoever has the most is going to be the winner of Ethnos. Let's talk about the 12 different factions come in the base box. Every player has a player aid, double-sided, that shows what the 12 powers do, because whichever card you put on top, you get to activate their power. So as we mentioned here with the rabbits, they count as if their group of cards was one size larger. The ones here with the merfolk track, or the koi fish, allow players to move their little piece along this track here according to the number of cards of that group that was played. When you pass these symbols, you're allowed to then take one of your pagodas and put it into any spot of the board, and this also is another little area majority scoring for the first, second, and third round of the game. Next up, there are factions that allow you to place your pagoda pieces anywhere that you want. As you play a group of cards X number of size, you get to draw X number of cards from the top of the deck. This one here allows you, as you play a group with a green leader, to cover up a pagoda piece of yours onto the green space. When you play with a black leader, you get to place it here, and at the end of the round, you may choose to turn in all of the pagodas that you've collected for additional points, as shown on the bottom. The bears allow you to grab the giant bear token here, and whoever holds it, whoever gets it immediately scores points, and then whoever's holding on to it at the end of the round also will score points depending on the era. The foxes over here allow you to, if you played a group of 4 with a fox leader, you get to take this 4 ninja star token, and these will be tiebreakers. Normally ties are split points. You add them up and divide them. If you are playing with this faction, because you only play with 6 at a time, whoever has the larger number will break the ties with the smaller one. The merchants over here, the raccoons, will allow you to add these tokens onto the board to make that region worth more points for whoever's in first place. This one here allows players to count as if the group was 1 larger in order to place pagodas out there. So if you already have 4 pagodas in a region, you would normally need 5 cards to add your 5th pagoda piece. In this case, you only need 4 cards with this virtual +1. This one allows you to immediately play another turn before you discard your cards to the middle. This one allows you to keep cards in hand. And then lastly, this faction here, the dogs, have no color on them. They can be added onto any group to increase the size of it, but they do go away at the end of round scoring. So they allow you to place out pieces more easily, but don't add to your group scoring size. So those are the factions that come in Ethnos.
All right, so when a game has a second edition that comes out, it can be kind of a two-edged sword. Right?
Yes.
I carry a lot of play time with the first edition, and so as I review games, I try to keep in mind that a lot of people have not played the original. This is going to be their entry point into this game system.
That's a good point, because I have to remind myself of that to a point, because you can't ignore the first one exists.
Correct. Yeah,
You know, so you have to kind of balance that out.
Yeah, so I think we're going to try to speak to both. If you're watching this brand new, haven't played Ethnos, but you've heard it's a good game, it's been out of print, hard to find, I think that this is still the same great game, right? It should be no surprise. A game that has been my number 3 favorite game of all time. It's still in my top 5, top 10 games. I'm going to say that it's fantastic. It's an excellent game, etc., right? But I think let's start with production.
Let's start with, before we get to that, I want to say when this came out again, because obviously the first Ethnos, I love the gameplay of it. I don't know anyone that says this artwork is fantastic, because it's just not. You know, it's like okay, you need to do something with this. So when Archaeos came out, it's like, all right, I like this theme, I like this idea, but then they replaced area majority with like track advancement, and I was like, no. That ruins it. Puts this solitaire game in that is such a great. It's head-to-head fun. That's what I love about Ethnos, that area control. So I was back out. You know.
Gotcha.
Then
okay.
This one came out. They're like, hey, this is gonna be second edition, and we're gonna do everything you loved about real Ethnos and just do better artwork. And I saw Dragon. I'm like, all right, I'm listening. Gonna stick to that fantasy thing, and no. Then all of a sudden, these like, let's go back to anthropomorphic animals. Again. Come on, man.
I think that's going to be to taste, right? Cook to taste, whether you like anthropomorphic animals or not. I think, though, one of the bigger issues that I have with the production of it is the art direction and stuff. Like, you can like this art or not, but I think that there's certain things, like the fact that each of the factions, the different colors of the same animal have different pieces of artwork, which can be done fine, but I think it's not done well in this.
No, it's done great in the first Ethnos, because when you have a hand, you know what they belong to by looking at the borders of them. Now you've got it down one side, and it's on how you splay them, and you just have to look at that icon, which a couple of them are very similar to each other.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, so that color, at a glance, I want to see, all right, I'm going to use this next turn. At a glance, not like fumble through all those icons. And this requires a lot more fumbling to get to that point.
When the cards are on the table in the big display, that's one of the joys of this game is actions and turns are so fast, right? You either
Yes.
draw a card or you play a set of cards. If the cards in hand are a little more confusing, that slows the game down. If the cards on the table, and sometimes there can be 12, 13 cards out there, if you're going, oh yeah, so excited to add this card to my hand, and then you realize a turn later, I did not grab the same faction. The animals or the symbols kind of look too similar.
Yes, that has happened so much where you see it, you're like, that's nope. And then like I'll see other people lay theirs down like, you can't do, oh right, that's the same faction, it's just the different color. Right. And it's like, but from across the board, you have to be able to see that. And you're right, that's a massive, massive deal for me.
Right.
You know,
in a game that turns are so fast, what I love about the game is, right, you oftentimes are just drawing a card, right? Sometimes there's face-up cards. Sometimes you're just drawing from the top of the deck. And I actually love that in this game, the tension of hitting that 10-card hand limit, and you're kind of waiting people out saying like, ooh, I'm going to just add a few more cards to hand. Okay, it's my turn again, add a card, next person's turn, right?
right.
You're waiting for someone to play out a set of cards and then put their leftovers into the middle of the table.
Yes.
And then you get to just like a vulture, like, wee, taking that, thank you very much. Anything like graphic design, art, all that stuff that slows down that by having confusing illustrations, by not having good iconography, anything like that slows that down kind of hurts the tempo and the pacing of this game.
It does, because that's one of the best moments of Ethnos, is that tension about, I want to lay it down now, but then I'm going to put all these cards out there. You know, and again, that hurts. Something else I mentioned the theme-wise, it's not just anthropomorphic animals or, you know, whatever. I watch see them in games, it's fine. I will say generic fantasy is a term people throw around all the time. But start throwing this around. Generic anthropomorphic animals. Just, you know what? Let's just stick some animals in there. That is becoming the new generic fantasy, because in the first Ethnos, it made sense. You had skeletons that couldn't be leaders. They go in there and they disintegrate. Boom. Makes sense.
I love that theme, yeah.
Yes, it's halflings. You know, they're not great by themselves, but together, they band together. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, they can do it. Wizards will refill your hand. And all of that made sense. And they knew these factions worked so well. We need to keep those abilities. And here, what they didn't realize is, yeah, they work. They work. I mean, they still work in this, but they don't make the sense they made in that original Ethnos. They just don't.
There's something weird, yeah, about saying dogs don't stick around for scoring, and people say, but why?
Right.
Yeah, right, but skeletons disintegrating before scoring at the end of a round is so thematic and delightful. Owls. I don't remember what the owl's ability is, right? You can say anything from the first edition, and I instantly can recall what that special ability is. I don't remember what they are here. And I don't think that the iconography, I personally prefer text on cards.
I agree.
Right? That's what made the first edition so great. And I know that, once again, that's me carrying stuff from the first edition. But what I will say is, if you're coming in brand new to this one, I don't think that the iconography for explaining the factions is terribly strong.
No.
Some of them, like the koi, like move up on the track, that's an easy icon to make. Which one's the icon that means +1 to the number of cards that you've played when placing out a pagoda versus +1 to scoring at the end of the round?
Right.
I still have to look that up every time.
Yeah. It's those type of unforced errors, I think, is what really drags this game down for me.
And it's funny because, like I said, if you're coming in, if you have never played Ethnos, I think that you might say, I think these guys are kind of overblowing these complaints here.
Right.
I'm aware of that. I'm aware of my own biases and everything. So, as a product reviewer, if you are coming into this brand new, you have a fantastic game ahead of you. If you've never played this before, it's going to be so neat. And you might be a little bit easier it might be easier for you to kind of let go some of those flubs, or some of those even larger flubs, like the fact that the black border card matches the purple area on the map. That's, for me, so bad.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but I've played it with plenty of people who say, okay, I get it. Makes sense enough, right?
And you're right, because I've played this with people who've never played Ethnos. So I'd like to play this game. I'm like, you're not this game. You probably heard of it, but this is different. But then you play it, and they're like, I liked it a lot. I'm going to have to buy it, because they never played Ethnos. And they love the mechanics of Ethnos, which are so great. And those mechanics are still great in this game. Yeah. It's just you now have the knowledge that, man, it could have been greater. because it's like it fits together so well. The iconography, all that. It's like, you think this is good? Ooh, I wish you could play the first edition.
Right. Now, I think people will ask, should I try to hunt down a harder to find, out of print first edition? No, I think that this game is still fantastic. I think that we have really railed into some of these production mistakes because they are, in my opinion, not just I don't like it, they're blatantly mistakes.
Yes.
But I still would recommend this game, right?
I know.
Because I think that the gameplay is excellent. I love, as you said, fighting for those majorities. When someone is going really heavy into the red region, you're like, I was going to score that. What do I do now? Well, wait, I'm going to go up the koi fish track, and I'm going to play a set of cards to go into that region and use my free extra placement, and I've just tied that person. Ball's in their court. What are you going to do? It has a delightful amount of interaction, both with the majorities, but also with when do you play a set of cards, throw cards out there into the lineup, into the market, and make them available for other players. I feel like it's so smooth and does things I don't see other games do.
I agree.
But I still have those little complaints, right? So how do we score this? I feel like that's kind of the inside of me are two anthropomorphic wolves. Mm-hmm. One loves form and the other loves function, and they're kind of battling each other in this particular box.
I agree.
So how would you rate this, Joey?
All right, this has been a struggle for me. I'm going between two numbers here, and it's the biggest thing for me is the fact that I want to act like this is the only one. The other one's priced too high. You know, if I looked at this as the other one does not exist, but the other one does exist.
Right.
But this is the easier entry point. And I'm actually coming in, man, back and forth. It's like I am coming in at a 6.5. Right below a 7. That honestly, that pains me because I'm like, all right, I have the original Ethnos, so I will not own this. But if I did not have the original Ethnos, I want that game in my collection. Would I get this? Probably not. I'd probably wait to get a good deal on the first edition. Because why? For me, that theme of that skeletons, and you tell somebody once, this is why. Got it. Makes sense. You tell them that theme of that animal once, it's like, got it. And the same thing, seeing those cards from across the table, that adds time to a game that flows so well. But again, if you're just getting into Ethnos, and this may be good because the mechanics are the same, the game feels the same, and when you get into it, when you finally figure it out, it does flow like Ethnos does. But I just can't really recommend it because their little mistakes have dragged it down. I mean, the original Ethnos for me is probably a 9.5. It's fantastic. But this one, it just hurts for me.
I'm going to say several numbers, right? My score for Ethnos 2nd edition is a 9. I give the original one a 10, right?
Wow.
If I had to rate this based on literally just the production value, it would be a 5, maybe lower, right? But there is more to a game than just its production. I really hate some of the flubs that they made in producing this.
I agree. But
the game is a 10 out of 10 for me. Like I said, it's in my top 5 games of all time. I love this game, and I'm very happy that it's back in print. If this is one that you have never tried, I recommend it wholeheartedly, even with the complaints that we have had, right? And as you play repeatedly, you're going to get past those initial flubs, those hindrances. People often say, you guys really rail way too hard on these types of details. I think the thing is that in our position, we're often teaching games to people. Mm-hmm. There's usually somebody new at the table who's a first-timer. I love showing people this game, and I'm probably going to prefer to show them the first edition.
Probably?
Well, okay, if this edition actually...
When would you actually show this over the first edition?
Because it's available. If I'm at someone's house, I just bought this. I'll absolutely teach you. It's a 9 out of 10 for me, right?
Right.
But if I have my druthers, I'll drag my copy around.
That's it.
But as soon as this edition gets expansions, because that's one of the things I've always wanted. I've always wanted expansions for Ethnos. If this gets that, if this is finally the one, Archaea Society never got expansions. If this is the one that finally gets more support and more stuff behind it, then I'm interested. And I might actually kind of switch over to this one. Or I'll print up mock-up cards for the first edition.
Right. Yes.
But anyway, all of that to say, absolutely I think you should play this game. Be aware of some of those mistakes, those flubs going into it, And I hope that you have a smoother experience with it. And maybe you don't have the baggage that I have, which is why I'm still comfortable giving this a high score.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, same thing. If you have not played Ethnos First Edition, you'll probably play this and go, this system's incredible. And it is. So I hate to discourage it, but yeah, it's a great system that exists in here.
There you go. So hard to quantify and everything, but still a high score of a 9, giving this one a seal of excellence, saying that this is a game you should go check out. It's fantastic. So thanks for coming out to this review, everybody. My name is Chris Yee.
I'm Joey Evans.
And have fun out there anthropomorphizing, baby.
Generic fantasy.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.